Gentlemen, welcome back to MGTOW Money. And of course, I welcome all the new subscribers. Thanks, guys, for joining us. This is MGTOW 2.0. This, of course, as I have said so many times, is the second wave of MGTOW. We are done discussing women. We are done discussing gynocentrism. We are done discussing Briefholt's Law. This is about how you can increase your freedom, how you can find freedom in an unfree world, to steal a phrase from Harry Brown's outstanding book. I cannot recommend enough how I found freedom in an unfree world. Recommended highly. Harry Brown is the author. This is all about discovering more choices and finding out more options that you have in life, because there always is an option in your life. Now, before we discuss last week's homework, which I'm sure that you started on, I briefly wanted to make a general statement about these videos. I highly encourage you, go back and listen to the very first one through the series. These are not very long. They're maybe 10, 15 minutes at the most per video, but they do build upon each other, just like a television series, a book that you might read, a movie, whatever. It's a series. They build on each other. Yes, there actually is a method behind the madness that I put together here. So I would highly encourage you to get the most impact out of these. Go back and listen to them in sequence. So, going to the homework, last week I had mentioned the extreme importance of tracking your spending. Figuring out some way that works for you to track your spending, whether that means getting out a pen and paper and writing down everything that you spend, or using an app like Mint, M-I-N-T, on a smartphone, or some combination thereof. I cannot stress enough how critically important it is for you to track your spending. Track every single penny, every single cent, everything that you spend every single day. Do it for a 90-day period. Don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Do it for a 90-day period. Then go back and look at the 90-day period and look at areas that you can cut. In other words, I guarantee you, speaking from experience, there are lots of things that you could get rid of that are actually a waste, that are doing very little for your life, that you could eliminate and actually end up saving a lot of money. And of course, that's what it's all about, because the equation is very, very simple. The more money that you have, the more options that you have. The more options you have, the more freedom that you have. It's not much more difficult than that. Again, more money you have, more options and choices you have, more freedom that you have. And how are you going to increase your freedom? One of the easiest ways to do so is cutting your spending. It's been my experience and the experience of many, many others. It's much easier to cut my spending than it is to increase my income. So I cannot encourage you enough to set up a system, to set up some regular way of tracking your spending, and then going back and figuring out, okay, where can I cut? Because you need to be a master of your money and not its slave. So let me give you a real actionable idea. And credit goes to a friend of mine who he's an expat in a foreign country. He mentioned one thing that he does that works really well, and I've discovered this does work well, is, you know what? You put yourself on a spending diet. What I mean is 2 days a week, or even 1 day a week, but ideally 2 days a week. You pick the days, doesn't make any difference. On those 2 particular days that you've designated, you don't spend any money. And when I say you don't spend any money, you don't spend any money. You don't spend, you skip the cup of coffee, you don't go to the bar, you don't buy a newspaper, you don't spend any money. You spend no money out of pocket per se for 2 days a week. You pick the days. And if that's too uncomfortable for you, if that's too excruciating, try it. Try 1 day a week. Just try it. Try it just once, because I think once you start doing it and you start building a little momentum, you'll see, hey, maybe I could actually do this 2 days a week. And correspondingly, of course, what you're going to see is your spending will decrease, your savings will, not surprisingly, increase, and let's go back to our equation, your freedom will start increasing. You'll start having additional choices and options in your life. So, let's move on to today's topic. Today's topic is going to be sort of a holistic review of the issues that I've covered over the past several videos. Specifically, this podcast, these videos are all about increasing your financial life and applying the ideas to increasing your freedom and taking actionable ideas that you can put into place immediately. I've mentioned from the first video that I put on YouTube, you've got to focus on the very, very basics of your life. You've got to discover how little you really need in life to survive. Imagine you're on a deserted island and you don't have anything. You have nothing. What are the very basics that you need? So start with that. Continuing on, the most important thing that's going to impact your entire financial life and your entire lifestyle, I know this is going to sound surprising, is going to be housing, your shelter. Your shelter is critically important. The type of house you choose, the amount of money that you spend, the size of that house, where that house is located, these are all not important decisions. They are critical decisions. They are life-changing decisions. You have to put a lot of thought into that. But let me give you 2 simple rules of thumb that I think work really, really well. Number 1, go small. Number 2, go cheap. Number 3, go near your job. Go near your work. So again, I'm going to give it to you again. Go small. Go as small as you can possibly live in. Number 2, go as cheap as you possibly can. Number 3, get something that's close to your employment. Get something that's close to your work, as close as physically possible. If it's within walking distance, I lived within, 100 meters or so from a place I worked for 2 years. It was fantastic. I might as well lived in a multi-million-dollar mansion because it was such a pleasure only living 100, 200 meters from my office. It was absolutely terrific. The third action item that I want you to take out of this, remember we were talking about this a couple of weeks ago or recently, eliminate the arsenic from your financial life. Get the poison out of your financial life. Specifically what I'm talking about is remove the debt. Get rid of that horrible 4-letter word that is metastasizing in your life if you're not careful. You've got to get rid of debt. Go back to that video a couple of weeks ago. Review that video. Review the action items that I was talking about. Making a list of all your debts and getting rid of them one by one. It's absolutely critical because I guarantee you it will be life-changing once you've done so. Next, you're going to increase your savings. You're going to increase the percentage of your income that you're saving. And ideally, and I stressed this a couple of videos ago, you want to set it up so it's automatic, so that it's automated, so that you've got a system, you've got some sort of built-in automatic discipline to where you're saving a certain percentage of your income, putting it aside in some sort of savings account, some sort of investment account that you can rely on. In other words, again, if you're getting 1,000 USD, 1,000 euros, 1,000 pounds, using round numbers here, if you're saving 10% of that, you're putting that aside. But 10% is just the beginning. You want to get it up to 10, 20, 30%. Yes, it can be done. I've known people that have done up to 50% of their income that they were putting aside. Obviously, they were high income, and correspondingly, guess what? They had low expenses. And you know what they got as a result of that? After doing that for some years, they had a lot of freedom because correspondingly, they had a lot of assets. And they were debt-free, of course. The last thing that we've already talked about is tracking your spending. I cannot tell you how important it is. You've got to get focused on where's all my money going? You've got to track your spending. Once you start tracking your spending, it'll allow you to focus on areas to cut, and correspondingly, you'll be able to increase your savings rate. So, in summary, what's the big picture here? Where does this all lead to, dude? This is where it leads to. This is for a MGTOW. Maybe you, I don't know, but this is for a man who knows if things are okay how they are, fine. I won't make any of these changes. I'll be okay. But this is for a man who, number one, is focused on increasing his freedom, increasing his choices. And he knows if he can get his biggest monthly expense under control, his home or shelter, and furthermore, he knows that, hey, beyond home and shelter, I got enough clothes, and my electric bill isn't that expensive, or gas, or propane, or whatever you might be using, and I got a stash of cash. You know what? I don't need a lot more than that. I know that I can live very, very cheaply if I want to. There is no nobility in poverty. I'm not encouraging you to take some sort of vow of poverty here and live like a monk. No, it's just the opposite. What I am telling you to do, though, is increase your choices, increase your freedom. And the steps that I'm providing to you, that I'm telling you to take, I guarantee you, I promise you with 100% certainty, you will find freedom in an unfree world by doing these things. You will find greater choices, and I shouldn't say happiness, but you will find more ability to find happiness by doing these types of steps. All right, guys, that's a wrap. As usual, I want to thank you, and I hope if you like this, you hit the like button. If you don't, hit the unlike button. But just as importantly, that you hit the subscribe button. As always, I look forward to us getting together in the near future. Thanks for listening.